All right, welcome back to the show. It's Christine Jewell, and today we are talking about capacity building. It is capacity building season. And so I'm speaking to those of you who maybe are going through a season where there is a lot of pressure. There is a lot required of you right now. Maybe you're going through a big season of growth. Maybe you're being stretched in ways you've never been stretched before. Maybe the demands on you in this time, in this season, are more intense than you are used to. And maybe you're finding yourself in a place of, man, I wish I had more energy. I wish I had more clarity. I wish I could just have more time, right? Don't we all want more time? This is not an episode on time, although we will do an episode on time. But I really want to talk about building capacity. So this is so huge. And I obviously there's context because I am in a big capacity building season right now. It is September at the time that I'm recording this. And I'm going to give you guys some context in a minute because I'm in it with you and I'm being stretched. Mark is being stretched. Mark and I are being stretched. Our marriage is being stretched. And anytime that we are being stretched, it's like there's so much opportunity for growth and there's so much opportunity for exhaustion and disappointment and disconnection. There's so much opportunity to rise into the next level of leadership. So let's just break it down real quick. I'm going to share maybe 5 to 7 non-negotiables, essential things that I tap into that are capacity building when I'm being stretched. So I'm going to dive into that. But when I talk about capacity, what are we talking about? Okay. The way that I define capacity, and I do not have the Webster's dictionary up or whatever it is, maybe I should pull it up. But the way I define it is, do I have the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual stamina, right, to run the race, not to start strong and be exhausted by the end of the day, but to start strong and be strong mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually throughout the day, to be consistent, to be steady. The other piece about this, as with fitness, when we think about capacity, it's our bandwidth, right? We're talking about mental bandwidth, emotional bandwidth, physical bandwidth, physical energy. So I'm going to use these words interchangeably: bandwidth, energy, capacity. Do I have the spiritual bandwidth, right? The faith, the heart, the spirit of peace, so that I don't get hijacked by a spirit of fear? So do we have the bandwidth? Do we have the energy to run our race well, as Paul says, right? Run the race well that you're being called to. Whatever position you're being put in, position of leadership, position of influence, the seat, even if you're not where you want to be, or maybe you just got dropped into a new position, we're always being equipped. We're always being tested. Our character is always being cultivated. And it's a beautiful thing. So capacity is that bandwidth, right? That allows us to not only attract the things that we want, great people on our team, great clients, great opportunities, right? The things that we're praying for, great marriage, great health, but to hold it and then to multiply it. I'm going to be talking about this 3-step process a lot, because it's one thing to receive, right? To get the deal, to get the client, to get the woman, to get that promotion. It's another thing to be able to steward it, to manage it, to maintain it, and then to steward it, which is to multiply it. So I think I'll do a whole other episode on that. We go deep into that teaching of those 3 areas of growth, that process in our coaching and transformational leadership programs. So if you guys want to learn more about that, you can always reach out, because we talk about those very specific stages of development. But let's go back to capacity for a second. And I know we've all felt it, right? When our capacity is low, we just don't have it. So I want to go through them real quick. Number 1, physical capacity. The physical capacity is that, do you have the physical energy? Do you wake up physically rested, or are you waking up hitting snooze? Boom, boom, boom. You're just like, oh my gosh, you're dragging yourself out of bed. You need to have 2 to 3 coffees maybe to wake up. You just feel like you're hitting the wall. Noon, 2 o'clock, you come home from work, maybe you are working from home, and you're exhausted. You just like do not have the physical bandwidth capacity to play with your kids, date your spouse, go for hobbies, whatever it is, a game of tennis, a game of golf, And you might be thinking, what is a hobby? I can't remember the last time I actually had time, space, energy in my life for a hobby. Red flag, guys, red flag. We need fun in our life. Otherwise, we will look to escape our lives. So that's the physical bandwidth, right? And if you want to, I love using scales. Like right now, I just invite yourself, right? Write it down on a scale of 1 to 10. Where would you say your physical capacity has been over the last 3 months, right? Where is your mental capacity? So the way I define mental capacity, mental bandwidth, is that ability to think clearly, to wake up with a calm, clear mind, not a chaotic, agitated mind where there's like all this stuff swirling all the time, not waking up at 3 a.m. with just your mind going crazy, which I hear a lot. Do you wake up? Are you mentally sharp? Are you mentally clear? How is your focus throughout the day? When you are there, are you able to be mentally present for the tasks, for the projects that you're doing? Or are you mentally trying to multitask 100 different things? You're doing one thing, but you're thinking about your email and you're thinking about that conversation last night, and your thoughts are so scattered. And when we are mentally low on capacity, our focus plummets, our mental performance plummets, right? Our ability to execute efficiently plummets. So everything takes way longer than it needs to. We end up creating a lot of congestion, confusion, because we're operating from a scattered mind with low processing power. This is huge, 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 huge. Third thing, we talked about emotional bandwidth. So when I talk about emotional bandwidth, I'm talking about the power, the capacity of your heart space, your emotions. Like, do I have the energy, the emotional energy to hold space for maybe my child that's going through something hard at school, that's maybe going through, some rejection, some growing pains? A lot of my clients, have kids in high school or university. There's a lot of change going on. Or do we find ourselves like impatient, emotionally trying to just fix them, uncomfortable with holding space for whether it's our kids, our wife, our husband, right? Maybe you see them anxious, you see them agitated, you see them going through something, and you just don't have the heart. Your heart may be closed down. You may not have access to compassion. You may have no access to grace. You may have no access to like hear about it, see about it. You just, because you're so emotionally depleted. We've all heard about our emotional bank accounts, right? Like we always get deposits put in when we spend time with people, when we're loved on. You got to know your love languages, right? But our emotional bank accounts, they get full. Our heart space gets really full when we feel deeply connected. We're doing things that bring us joy, that we're, passionate about, that we feel on purpose about. When we're doing aligned work, we feel not only mentally energized, right? You're turned on mentally. It's invigorating, it's exciting intellectually, but your heart space is energized about the work. That means you love it. You are fulfilled at the end of the day, not exhausted. So all these things, like, they start stacking in our emotional bank account, right? When we are spending quality time with our loved ones, when we're actually in healthy relationship dynamic, when our team is working together and talking to each other, we have time to do things we love. Emotionally, we get filled up. How is your emotional bank account? How is your emotional capacity right now? Are you snapping at everything? Do people have to walk on eggshells around you? Maybe you walk on eggshells, right? Like, how are you doing in the area of your heart space? Is your heart like weary and tired? And I have been there so many times where I've just felt maybe mentally congested, mentally confused, unclear, scattered in my thinking, emotionally just feeling like I was running on scraps or fumes, physically tired, going to bed exhausted, waking up exhausted. Like I've been there. I know that place and I'm never going back, y'all. I'm never going back. In the last episode, I talked about drawing the line in the sand and having your effective immediately moment. Like it gets to look different. Let's talk about spiritual capacity for a minute, because I think that there's a lot of talk around fitness, physical fitness, working out. I'm going to talk about one of my non-negotiables when it comes to building physical capacity, but we don't talk a lot about spiritual capacity. And as I'm doing this podcast, I think I could probably do an entire podcast on each one of these easily. But spiritual capacity is my faith muscle, my muscle of faith. How is my spirit doing? Because you can feel emotionally, unrested and all this stuff, or you can feel physically uncomfortable and spiritually be at peace, spiritually be walking in faith, spiritually have confidence in your spirit, right? In your inner man, your inner woman. There's just a spiritual peace about the decision making, about the steps that you're taking, about the promises God's spoken over your life, over your marriage, about the calling and the season that you're in. When you have spiritual capacity, right, your faith increases, your spiritual sight, your spiritual hearing, your spiritual knowing, your discernment increases. This is huge because everything originates in the spirit way before it is manifested in physical form, right? Everything that we create in our households, in our teams, our marriage, the stuff that we have first originated with thought, emotion, and before that, their spirit. So when we are depleted, starving, malnourished spiritually, we become void of faith. Discernment is like escaping us. We lose our sense and ability of being able to tell, what is that? Is that me talking? Is that God talking? Is that a voice of the enemy? Is that a voice of my mother? Like, we are getting confused. There's a different level of confusion that's not just mental confusion, but it's a spiritual confusion. There is a spiritual disheartening, right? We don't feel connected to God. Maybe those of you who've been walking in faith, and we all go through different seasons, you might be wondering, I don't know where God is right now in my life. I just feel so far away from God. I feel so disconnected. I'm unclear. Maybe your faith muscle is, maybe you've never built it, but maybe it's just like dry, like the desert. So that's the way that I define these things. When we are spiritually full, our capacity is great. Our faith is increased. Our ability to see in the supernatural beyond the physical things that are presenting themselves to us, spiritual vision, spiritual hearing, our ability to hear God's voice, to see God moving in the atmosphere, discernment, so many other things are we're just clear, right? We are energized spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally. We've just talked all about that. The last thing I want to say about this is when we are um, what is a sign, right, to tell how we are doing? Well, first of all, I gave you the scale. I love doing scales because for me that's easy. Like, I like rating things. It gives me a pulse and a framework of where I'm at, where I get to go to. And so, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, I just encourage you, where are you at? Like, are you at a 10 in your spiritual capacity, or are you at like a 0? Are you at a 3? Where are you at in your emotional capacity? Emotions have a lot to do with the relationships in our life, right? We're very um, energized or drained emotionally by how the relationships in our life are doing. How are you doing mentally, right? This is a lot in the area of overwhelm and just scattered thinking and focus. On a scale of 1 to 10, how you doing there? How you doing physically? By the way, um, I have this readiness factor assessment I created. It rates 10 arenas of your life. We talked about 4, but it rates 10 arenas of your life to give you an overall score of like, just how are you doing? It's not to judge you or make you feel bad. It's just to give you an honest view, right, of where you're at, how you're operating in all cylinders right now. So we're going to drop the link to that. It's a readiness factor assessment. And the reason why I called it the readiness factor assessment is part of it was how ready, how prepared, how positioned are you to receive the increase, the next thing that you're praying for, whether it's, again, the right team, the right opportunities, the right next things. Like, we've got to be ready, you guys. We've got to be ready. We're praying for things. We want God to give us things. We want to step into more bold seasons. But some of us are not ready because our capacity is so low. We are scattered. We're emotionally drained. If that thing came to us, it would be a hot mess. We would be destroying it. We would be self-sabotaging it. It would overtake us, overwhelm us. And this is what I love about God, is he is so gracious, right? We always hear that he'll never give you more than he can handle. And just as I think about my kids, sometimes they want something so bad. They've wanted things so bad. And as a parent, like, I know it is not the time. They're not ready. They have not prepared the character, their atmosphere, their schedule, right? boundaries to be able to receive the thing and to steward it well, let alone multiply it, right? Stewardship is multiplication. So if you want to just tap in, get that readiness assessment, click on the link below. Okay, let's carry on. So the other thing about capacity, how we test it is how fast do you recover? How well do you recover? I've been in the high performance world for many years. I was in holistic health and performance and athletics, and one of the telltale signs of an athlete's fitness level, okay, is their ability to recover. How fast do you recover? Everybody can sprint, okay? Everybody, when they're under duress, if a Rottweiler is chasing you, if all of a sudden a lion starts chasing you, or your body goes, oh my gosh, there is a threat in my environment, everybody can be in the place where all of a sudden there's this like supernatural kind of strength that kicks in. Adrenaline's pumping, you got norepinephrine going, you got adrenaline, you've got cortisol, you've got all these hormones that are rushing in to help kick your body into gear to survive this moment, to outrun the lion, right? To lift the heavy thing off the person that just fell. It is a primal instinct. I love the fact that God designed us this way, right? As part of our body's miraculous design. But we're not designed to stay there in that place of survival, of always having a threat around us, always having to be in this dump of hormones just to get us through. Because over time, our adrenals get shot when cortisol levels are high for a long time. Now we have difficulty sleeping, we have difficulty waking up rested, we start gaining weight, we start having chronic pain, chronic fatigue, and it's a cascade of things that happen afterwards. So while it's a gift to be able to go through a season of push when it's go time, or when we are under duress because a stressful event comes, whether it's like an accident and we have to rush to the scene and help somebody out, that's a legit fire in our house that we have to get out of. As one of my clients went through years ago, where she woke up and had to get people out of the house. Like, that's what that's for, but not for every day, all day long operating. Okay. Otherwise you get burnt out totally. Your capacity is low and your ability to recover gets non-existent. So that's why we hear things, we're like, I'm so thin, my fuse is so low, my patience is hanging on by a thread. And when we're like that, we can't lead anyone effectively. We can't lead ourselves effectively. We certainly can't create a safe, healthy environment at home, in our marriage, in our teams, anywhere. So everything starts within. Well, that was about 18 minutes of breaking down capacity, but I thought that was really good. so, so as I think about, capacity, why is Christine talking about this? And I want to say that I'm going in it with you guys. Right now, we are in a big push season. We had the book launch that was a big push after, a couple years of building that up and working on it. June, we had the book launch. Mark and I got to go to Italy, which was beautiful. I felt like that was such a well positioned season of rest, a time of rest before we were diving into what we were getting into. But since we came back in August, August isn't even over yet. We are on our fifth live event. We have run over 5 live events. I believe there's still 2 more on the calendar. There's one more for sure. I don't know if it's going to happen next week. No, that'll be September. So we had 5 live events, anywhere from 40 people to 70 people to 12 people to intimate deep dive retreat that was like 3 days long. All of these were multi-day events with a lot of logistics, a lot of people to manage. And we're doing deep work, guys. We're not playing surface level games, right? So this is like our teams coming together. We've had 5 events. We've been, traveling from state to state to state. We'd had a family wedding, one of our kids getting married. We had my father going into ICU for the last 28 days. It's been intense to, just with everything that's been going there and everything that we had scheduled, communicating with nurses and doctors. And now he's just come out of that. He's having surgery actually this morning as we speak. I've got a daughter in Canada that had found out she had 30 days to move out and find a place. And so I get to go help her find a place. My husband and Mark and Everett went on a beautiful week long initiation that they had planned for like the whole year that they were going to go backpacking for a week. So Mark got to do that with Everett. You know, we had he got baptized at the end of the week. Like there's been just so many great things. We're merging our business right now. We've been doing a total rebrand behind the scenes, just working on getting that going. And I'm sharing that with you because, you know, with all of these things, with hosting live events and then merging companies and having one elderly parent in Florida and then, you know, older kids that are still in Canada going through their changes in their 20s. And, you know, it's just a different type of need. They still need us. They need us emotionally. They need my daughter's like, I need you physically. I want my mom, you know, like I just want you to be here with me. And sometimes we're like, God, how do I do it all? Like, how do I be in all the places and do it well and do it with excellence and do it in a way that I just don't totally burn out, right? And hit the floor. Because otherwise I can't show up for anyone. I can't lead my team. I can't parent my daughter. I can't be a daughter to my dad. Like, right. So what do you do? How do you do it? And this is just on my heart because I'm in this season. And as I mentioned, Mark and I are also being stretched as a couple with all the logistics coming and going and different needs. And, you know, when our other daughter got on the volleyball team, the varsity volleyball team, it's her freshman year. So there's like practices every day and games. And she is, you know, needs to be everywhere. We got one kid that started driving. So she's driving to school. Like it's just, I just want you to know I'm real and we're real and we're going through a lot of the same things that you guys are going through, the storming and forming of teams as we are building our company together as husband and wife, or unification leads to multiplication. So we're in it. We're in the storming and forming phase. But here's the thing. First of all, we said we're not going to do this alone. Okay. First of all, we are very clear. We are not operating as lone wolves. It's not like Christine's over here doing everything her way and Mark's over there doing everything his way. And we're just head down lone wolfing it. That would have been both of our programs in the past, actually, for many, many years. Like we were just, Mark's program was like, figure it out. And while I do believe everything is figure outable, as Marie Forleo says, everything is figure outable. Sometimes we've been programmed to think that I have to go figure everything out on my own. And I don't want to burden anyone else. I don't want to stress anyone else. We actually don't know how to ask for help, how to actually delegate properly, ask for support. And that was our default mode, man, for decades for both of us. So as we come together to really play in this space of interdependence, leaning on each other, leaning on the team, like collaboration at the next level, creating together, shifting roles when we need to, like Navy SEALs type leadership. It's like he or she who is best positioned to lead in this moment takes the reins and goes, like totally different. There's so much shift going on, right? Um, and so it's like as we're going through this ourselves, we're elevating our game and we keep talking about, okay, what are the things that matter? Number one, we're not going alone, right? We are doing this together. We're going to stand united. We're going to keep that North Star. Like, what are we actually doing this all for? Let's not lose sight of what matters most. Mark and I were having that conversation last night. You know, there was, oh, this is going on and this needs to happen. And you're going to have those conversations, but it's so beautiful to be able to come back to and say, let's not forget about what we're doing in this all for. At the end of the day, you know, when we're 70 or 80 or 90, we're not going to be wishing we crammed one more thing in. So let's not lose sight of what we're doing this for. And if we need to say no to some things, then we get to say no to some things so that we don't compromise the things that matter most. Um, so I'm sharing all of that because as we're going through this, we're being stretched and we're both responsible to maintain or bring the best of us to this situation. We're human. We're going to mess things up sometime. But this is what's awesome is that when we take personal responsibility, we know we're in a season of stretch. We know that there's a lot of demands on us. How are we showing up? Are we just becoming a puppet getting whipped around by every demand and every fire? Are we running around like chickens with our heads cut off, exhausted, blaming everything else and saying, you know, it's just a season. I'll get through it. I'll get through it. Meanwhile, our capacity is plummeting mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. We're like absent, but we're trying to do all this stuff. And what that is called is toiling in vain, right? It's working your butt off, laboring in vain instead of laboring with God, co creating with God. So I want to share 5, maybe a couple extra practices or things that I am relentless about, ruthless about in seasons like this. I always have protocols. I'm come from the holistic health and performance world, so I have a lot of intentional protocols and stacks, habit stacks that I do on a daily basis, and they shift depending on the season I'm in. But these are 5 non-negotiables, probably 7 if I get look at my list. And here's number 1. I'm going to start with physical capacity. Okay. These are not in order, but I'm going to start with physical capacity. So, my ability to, my body, my visceral body, be able to handle the demands, the pressure, the intensity of this season. Number 1 is I train hard. What does that mean? I do hard, short workouts that I train sort of at the edge like of my comfort zone. I'm out of my comfort zone, but I'm not going to the place of full exhaustion. So it's like that anaerobic threshold zone. You guys can look that up. That anaerobic threshold that requires me, and I do a lot on the spin bike. I still have the spin bikes from the studio. We have a rowing machine in the garage. Love the concept T rower because in a short amount of time, you can train a lot of intensity, but you can train your capacity to increase. So I'm not here to give you guys the full workout, but what I will often do when I say training at the edge is I will do sprints, right? Sprints on the rower, sprints on the bike, hill sprints, where it just pulls me into the place where I have to hold a level of concentration, a level of focus, a level of breath work that if I push any harder or if I go over that edge, I lose it, right? And so it's training me to calm my heart rate down, to calm my thoughts down, to be fully present, to really tune in and find rhythm, find flow, right? It's just me and the bike. This goes back, like, I love cycling. I haven't been road riding as much in North Carolina because, first of all, they have no shoulders here. It's insanity. There's like no shoulders. I miss road riding in Canada. But when I would road ride a lot, I do still mountain bike, and you're doing those repeats, right? Hill repeats, or you're just bearing down and you are just dropping in. It's like you, the bike, the road. I don't know if you guys can relate to this. Maybe you're not cyclists, but also on the rower, it's finding that spot, that sweet spot where I can train hard, where I can train myself. It's not about pushing hard. It's about learning how to be in the pressure, in the pocket, and stay relaxed, stay focused. So for me, those intense workouts 3 times a week or so, when I'm just like training the capacity at the edge, are non essential. You have to be careful with this because if you're already going hard and you're going and you're throwing yourself over the edge in the workouts, right? You get to the point where you walk out of the workout and you're just like completely depleted, completely drained. It's actually working against us. So when I leave these workouts, I actually feel more energized, more alive, more alert than when I started. Okay. That's the key. And again, love to do it on the bike right now. The second thing here that I really focus on is breath work. And so, again, this is non negotiable of just being quiet. This is like, by the way, you can do a lot of these things stacked at a time. But when we practice breath work, and what I mean by breath work is simply slowing down, breathing slower, right? And being aware of your breath. When we're agitated, when we're under pressure, when we're in firefighting mode, we're unaware. Many of us start mouth breathing. We're like panting. Our breathing is shallow, it's rapid, it's matching our heart rate. And when we do that, our muscles get tense and tight, our jaws clench, our ability to think, our creative bandwidth starts to really shrink, and our heart rate's racing. We've got so many different things going on. Our posture collapses, which affects testosterone, our power hormone, and cortisol kicks in even more. And so by slowing down and just paying attention, being aware of your breath, whether it's a 5 to 10 minutes a day of breath work, it's mindfulness, right? You're being mindful of, let me slow down my breath. And so for me, I love like the breathing in for 6, out for 8, or box breathing, 4 counts in, holding for 4, exhale for 4, holding for 4. Box breathing, uh, I love as well as just breathing in slow for 6 and out for 8. And again, you can train this while you're going for a walk around the neighborhood, right? And walking the dogs, just slow down. Yesterday I was getting my hair done, and I was talking to my hairdresser about that too. It's like, just as she was talking, I'm like, and she was like, I don't know how to get back in my body. And I was like, just start paying attention to your breath. Notice, right? Don't try to control. Just notice how fast your breath is. Even right now, while you guys are listening, right? Can I slow down and breathe in slower? Can I breathe in through my nose? Can I exhale through my mouth? When we mouth breathe, it activates our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight mode. When we breathe in through the nose, it activates our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our calming restorative. So you can be in the pressure, right? You can be in an intense situation, an intense season, and you could keep your mouth shut, literally. And you can be breathing in and out through the nose with your body relaxed. And you have to train this. So I train this in the moments, right? Where maybe I'm sitting in the sauna for a few minutes. You could do it while you're driving. Like, you're going to have time where you're driving places where you recalibrate your breath and your nervous system, and you train yourself to slow down your breathing, to come back into your body. Because most of us are absent from our body, right? Like, we're, again, I talked about this, I think, a lot last time, where so much of our scatteredness comes from being in the future or in the past or all up in somebody else's business. And we are not present in our temple, in our vessel. And this creates a lot of internal chaos. Okay, next, rest. So we talked about hard workouts, like training my physical body so that I know what it feels like to be in that pressure, but be in flow state. Talked about mindfulness, breath work, slowing down our breath, doing either box breathing. You can look that up on YouTube. There's so many. There's like little chimes you can listen to. Basically, breathing in for 4 out for 4, doing 4 counts in, 6 out, 6 in, 8 out, doesn't matter. The third one is rest. What do I mean by rest? This is a big one. I'm just going to share this real quick. Rest means if I am feeling exhausted, I take a micro rest, right? That might be a 10-minute nap. It's so funny. Like, we're so trained to always be going, always be moving, do not slow down. And yet, when we train ourselves to slow down, to speed up, we pick up time, we pick up energy, we pick up clarity, we pick up efficiency. So, rest is, going to sleep, non-negotiable. If I'm in a season of high capacity, like, I will not cut the sleep out. I refuse. That is the one thing. Sleep is where all the repair happens. All the repair, the cognitive repair, the physical repair, right? The mental repair. And when you cut yourself out on that, you're just like delusional thinking that you're operating in a high capacity. You're just not. So when you rob yourself of sleep, you rob yourself of recovery. And you know that any athlete that does not fully recover between workouts or between intense games or practices will be a detriment at the next game. You cannot keep doing that. You're going to start slowing down. Not only will you be susceptible to hurting yourself, but you'll be susceptible to hurting the people around you. So, when rest, rest, rest. I am not compromising on rest. That's the one thing, is like, I refuse. I have to wake up rested. I need to wake up mentally clear. That is a non-negotiable. Getting my 7 to 8 hours of sleep, right? I'm about 7 to 9. 7 is the bare minimum. 8 for sure. 8 hours of sleep. That's the total rest. The other thing is those micro naps. We talked about that, but giving yourself those breaks in the middle of the day when you're just like, okay, I've been going for 3 hours, I've been going for 90 minutes. We've got to activate these high performance practices of saying, I'm doing a 90-minute block, I'm doing a break, right? To recalibrate my mind. Will I just close my eyes for 5 minutes? Will I close my eyes for 10 minutes? I've talked a lot about the micro naps. I'm still working on those. But I also want to say this about rest. Going for a walk can also be rest in motion, right? So there's total rest, there's a sleeping, but also giving myself moments where I'm able to experience rest as I'm walking, as I'm recalibrating. Sometimes instead of taking a call on the phone, if it's a season of high capacity, I'll say, hey, you know what? We're not doing Zoom. We're going to do walks right now. I'm going to do walk and talks. So I still get to have those conversations, but I get to flip the how, and I get to do something that actually infuses me with life. So I get to get on the call, and what do? I go walk. I'm resting my body by walking slowly. I'm slowing down. I'm being aware of my breath, and I could still be in that conversation. You know, this makes me think also about spiritual rest. Like the season that we're in right now sometimes can feel like, man, it's so intense and our spirits can get uneasy, right? Our spirits start to get frenetic and impatient, and faith starts to drop. And part of this is, come to me, all of you who are weary, and I will give you rest, right? When Jesus said that, maybe it is physical rest, but what he's talking about is a spiritual type of rest, right? That you don't have to be anxious about everything when you're not spiritually carrying the weight of everything. You can rest in the knowing that he goes before you. When when God called Moses, said, I will go ahead of you, right? Over and over again, we hear God saying, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. We hear that over and over and over again. He built the Sabbath into the fabric of creation. God himself creates for 6 days and rests on the seventh. Jesus pulls away over and over again after deep healing, deep work, deep ministry to go rest, to be with the Father. How are you doing? This rest thing is non-negotiable. If you want to build capacity, you need time to physically rest, to spiritually rest. Okay, let's talk about the last two here. The fourth thing I want to talk about is connection. So it is so easy when the pressure cooker's on to just be like, head down, it's go time. I don't have time for date night. I don't have time for this. I'll talk to you when this whole thing is over. But we are created for connection. Our human soul, our being, our hearts need to be in connection, because the minute we start feeling divided, the minute we start feeling disconnected, and by the way, it happens subtly, our capacity plummets. So, whatever it looks like for you, for me, having that morning time just to connect with my husband, with God, first of all, top of the day, connecting with the Spirit of God is non negotiable. It is essential. Why? Because I'm going to do foolish things if I'm in a high demand season where I know that there's a lot of things pulling on my attention. There's a lot of things pulling on my focus. When you're tired, you make dumb decisions, right? When you have a lot of things coming at you and you don't have clarity, you lack wisdom, you make foolish decisions. First Corinthians says, and when he's talking about the Spirit, he says, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, nor the heart of man imagined what God has prepared for those who love him. These things God has revealed to us through the Spirit. For the Spirit searches everything, even the depths of God. For who knows a person's thoughts except the spirit of that person which is in him? So also no one comprehends the thoughts of God except for the Spirit of God. Later in the New Testament, or also that's also in the New Testament, but when Jesus is saying, I'm going to leave, but I'm going to give you, right, a counselor. I'm going to give you the one who comes after me, who will guide you, who will comfort you. He is the great comforter. He is the mighty counselor. He's talking about the Spirit of God. And the disciples were freaking out. You're going to leave us? Like, oh my gosh, who's going to tell us the right way? Who's going to teach us? Who's going to guide us? Who are we going to look to? And he says, the Spirit of God is going to come, and he's going to be your counselor, your comfort, your guide. This is so powerful because as we're leaning in to seasons of pressure, change, transformation, we have been given a mighty counselor. We have access to the mind of Christ, the mind of God, who has a heavenly perspective over every single situation, who knows and searches our hearts and our thoughts to see if there's anything in us that needs to be like reorganized, right? So that we can make better decisions. So for me, that morning time of connection to God is like, I need to get a heavenly perspective of the situation. I want to speak to the one who can see everything. I want to speak to the owner and creator of everything and just connect to him so that he gives me insight, wisdom, revelation, clarity. And I ask him, like, what is the authorized work? What is the one thing that you want me to focus on above all else? And if I can tune into that, everything else becomes easier. Everything else starts falling into place. So Connect. First and foremost, to the Spirit of God. Secondly, connect to people in your life. I don't care if it's a slow down, you have time to make the phone call. You have time to send the text and say, I love you. You have time to voice note a daily message, a daily brief, right? Oh, I did a whole podcast on that with Mark. But do not forgo connection with the Spirit of God and connection with those you love most, because I guarantee you, your capacity, your emotional capacity will plummet, and everything around you also will become heavier because you're going alone. And we are not designed to carry the burdens of the world alone. The last thing I want to say about this capacity conversation, and of course, yes, there's nutritional things and there's all kinds of stuff I could tell you as a, nutritionist from the past and from the fitness side, but there is nothing like praise and worship, singing, dancing, right? Because when we get in seasons of high pressure, high demand, we go so serious, right? Like we're like, okay, I will take the weight of the world on my shoulders. I will handle everything. I will go into lone wolf mode. I will figure it all out, and I will get so serious and I forget to laugh and I forget to keep things light. I get heavy and burdened instead of light, right? Jesus says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Consider it all joy, everything that we are going through, right? And there's so many times where I'm like, God, I just want to do a great job. Like, I just want to crush this thing that you've given me. I want to do it with excellence. And I get so serious and I forget to have the heart of a child. I forget to laugh, to sing, to dance. And y'all know I geek out on spiritual warfare and battle strategies because I think that is just the book of wisdom and success when it comes to life and business. But if we study biblical warfare, always God commands the people to sing and dance and worship. And when the people sing and dance and worship in the midst of the battles, in the midst of the greatest challenges, it's like, boom, walls crumble, doors open, seas part, right? Like enemies turn on themselves. The very thing that we think we're fighting against, that the Lord always says, the battle is mine, it's not yours. Keep moving where I tell you, sing, dance, whatever's worthy of praise, focus on that. Do the things that I'm telling you to do. Let me handle things. And when there's praise and there was worship in the atmosphere, that means we're in appreciation. We're literally singing, worshiping, praising. Walls crumble, doors open, right? The Goliaths in our life start changing shape and turning on against themselves. And I just love that. And this is my position and my posture. I know we're going long today for a solo cast, but I want to thank you all for hanging with me because I think this was such a powerful episode. When we can tune into these things in seasons of pressure, we're able to maintain and continue to build capacity in times such as this, because to whom much is given, much is required. And this doesn't mean to be weighed down, heavy, and burdened. It means to maintain a light spirit, a sound mind, a spirit of faith, right? A vessel that is clean and strong, and to keep moving forward with focus on the authorized work that's before us. So I just want to thank you guys for being here today. I want to thank you for tuning in. I think this was such a powerful episode. I know people need to hear this right now. If anybody's coming to your heart, first of all, this message is for you. So I want to hear from you guys. Make sure you subscribe, follow, leave a review. If you have not left a review, take a minute. It means so much to me. I read them all. But also, if you know somebody who needs to hear this message, pass it on to them. Get this message in their hand. Remember, we have some awesome free downloads. As always, we have the readiness factor assessment for you to do that today. And until next time, you guys, here's to loving fiercely, leading courageously, and building capacity, greater capacity for everything that God has put into your hands. Talk to you next time.